Hey everybody, this is Mr. Storm, and in this video we are going to take what we've learned about HTML and CSS and we're going to apply that to kind of a bigger scope, right? We are just going to create one page, but we want to use what we know about CSS and HTML to create a web page that can be modified to make any other web page we want to make. We're going to make something called a template. Okay, templates are great to work off of. I'm going to teach you how to use the template or how to create the template that I used to use. I use something different now, but there are more advanced techniques in my newest template that I am not going to teach you. Right now, we're at the beginning of our web development journey, so I'll teach you my basic beginner template. And this template is going to allow us to create columns and sections within our website of varying widths and heights, varying widths, and it's going to allow our website to reorganize itself a little bit whenever we get to the edge or whenever we shrink the content down. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, first I'm going to organize my content a little bit here. I want to make sure that the things inside the head are indented so I can keep my organizational structure here. I'm going to give my website a title. I'll call it template. There we go, template. Oh, I hit enter on accident. There we go. I'm going to give myself a style element, style. And I'm not going to put, actually, you know what? I will put something in there for now. Here's a trick that we haven't gone over yet. If you use the asterisk, then what that does is it applies to the entire web page itself. I'm actually not going to write any code here yet because I want to show you what we're doing while we're doing it. So let's put some content in our website first. All right, so first let's create a new div, so a new divider. Let's put an H1 in here. I'm going to call this template as well so we can have, all right, there we go. And let's put a little paragraph element underneath of it. We'll say, welcome to my site. Okay, so now what we want to do, I'm going to show you what this asterisk does. The asterisk is going to apply whatever we write in here to everything on the page. We can overwrite it, obviously, if we want to, but this is going to just set everything to the right size. So for example, notice that we have some padding here. There's some padding already applied to my elements by default, because without it, it's going to be shrunk up against the corner and it's not going to look very good. We don't want that padding there though, because it's going to get in the way whenever we're trying to organize our tiles that we're going to create. So let's go ahead and get rid of the padding. So padding 0, and let's get rid of the margin as well. So now there's no margin or padding between my elements. Okay, perfect. The other thing we're going to do is we want to change the way we size our boxes. We're going to use this property called box sizing border box. What this is going to do is it's going to make it so that our divs, when we set the size for our div, it's going to include the padding and margins that we've established for the content. So it'll make it easy for us to create boxes that are the exact size without having a little bit of overflow that's going to cause problems later on down the line. This is going to allow us, when we say I want a box to be 50% of the page, it'll be exactly 50% of the page, not 50% plus whatever the margin is plus whatever the padding is, right? Okay. Next, let's set a font for our body. So I'm going to just font family, and I'm just going to go with Arial, and I'll say sans serif as a backup. So we have a nice sans serif font applied to the website. Okay, this is going to be what I call my header. Websites don't really generally use the term header anymore, but I've used it in the past. It's something I'm used to. So I'm just going to call it header. I'm going to apply a class to this div called header, which means I need to create a header class in my CSS. All right, now whenever I modify this header class, it's going to modify whatever's in my div because the class has been associated. All right, so let's change the background color for one so we can see what we're looking at. Ground hyphen color. And I'm just going to set it to just a standard gray. Perfect. And why did that not work? Well, let's troubleshoot. So we have header, header. Oh, I just needed to click in here and update the changes. All right, so now we have a gray background color. All right, let's do something else. Let's align the text to the center. So we can say text, align, center. Perfect. Oh, I hit enter too many times. Let's give it some nice padding. I like a good amount of padding in the header element. Let's give it 30 pixels of padding. And let's change the font size as well. Make it just a little bigger. Let's go 35 pixels. Make it nice and beefy. And then I think that's all we need. Yeah, so now we have a nice big header on our web page that we can make it look a little bit nicer. Obviously, you can change the text and everything else in here, but this is what a standard header would look like for a web page. Okay. Now, if we wanted to, we could put a navigation bar underneath of this. We can do all kinds of fun stuff, but I'm not going to worry about navigation yet. We'll do that another time. Okay. So after that's done, let's talk about how we're going to create a system of grid, or a grid system. So the way this grid system is going to work is we're going to create a special class that we call C. I always called it C for column or whatever. But C is just what I've always called it, so that's what I'm going to call it here. We're going to create a class called C. And within C, we're going to have some subclasses. These subclasses are all going to be separate values. So we're going to have a C quarter, a C half, a C 3/4, and a C full. So we'll have 4 different subclasses. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow us to say, I want this box, this container, to only be 1/4 of the way across the page. So I can put 4 of those boxes on a row. Or I can say, I want this box to be half of the width of the page and then have 2 quarter containers behind it. Or I want it to be the full width. Or I want a 1/4 container, a half container, and then another 1/4 container. Whatever we want to do, right? And these are fully customizable things. We can do all whatever we want with them. We can change them around all we want because we're writing the code. But I'm just going to do those 4 so that we have enough flexibility to make kind of whatever we want. All right, so let's create the C class first. All right, and inside of here, the most important property for this to work is the float property. The float property is going to tell CSS how our containers stack against each other, okay? So we want them to float to the left, meaning float up and to the left if there's room for that container. Okay, let's give it some padding of 10 pixels. And for now, I'm gonna create a border, 1 pixel solid black border around each container so we can see what they look like. In your, when you're using this template, you're probably gonna wanna get rid of the border because it's not gonna look good with like black borders around everything. I'm just using that so we can see the boundaries of the boxes we're creating. Okay, and then let's create our 1/4 class, our 1/4 subclass, and then we'll create 4 divs that go across the first row. So I'm gonna say C, and then another period, and I'm gonna write 1/4. This is creating a subclass, meaning we're gonna inherit all of this code here, but we're also gonna apply some new code as well. And the new code we want to apply is width, and we'll say 25%. Okay, perfect. So now all we have to do is create a new div that uses that class. So class equals C quarter, okay? And I can put some content in there. Let's say, you know, quarter. Okay, so now notice that I now have a box that only takes up 25% of the screen, and I can resize it and it will take up 25% of the screen no matter what. Okay, and let's create 4 of these. So copy. So now I have 4 quarters and they take up 25% of my screen no matter what, even if I shrink it down really, really low. Okay. So now if I ever want to create some content and have it only take up a quarter of the screen, I can use this, I can assign C quarter to that row or to that container, okay? Perfect. Let's do the rest. These are going to be easy. C dot half is width 50%. Okay. With this, we can actually, let's get rid of one of these and let's change this to half, and we'll write half in here as well. So now we have a grid. We have you know, we could do like a panel with a bunch of links over here, and then we have our main content and then some ads over here. This 3-column setup is a lot like what used to happen in the old days of the internet. So we can do that. We could, let's do a 3/4, C dot 3/4, and that's going to be 75%, 75%. And let's get rid of this one, and we can change that to 3/4. And so that'll give us side content here, but then one that is the rest of the width of the page. Okay. And we can do all kinds of combinations. Let me just kind of show you some of the combinations we can do. So we've got that one. Let's also do, let's do a half and another quarter. Okay, so we can kind of create a grid however we want. We could also do one that starts with a half and has another half, right? Oh, let's create the full one. So we'll say C dot full width 100%. And then I can create a new one, and we'll call this one full, and we'll say full. So now we have a container that goes across the entire screen. So the nice thing about this is we can create any combination of rows that we want by just creating columns of a specific width, right? And height by default in a div in CSS is going to be based off the content that's in there. So for example, they're all small right now. They're not very tall because they've only have one piece of content in there. If I were instead to go to, let me pull up a web browser window here. Lorem Ipsum. So Lorem Ipsum is a made-up language used in web development. It's used in order to, well, it's used in typesetting, but it's handy in web development. It's used to basically create a bunch of gibberish that looks like text in many different languages, but it's not actually, it doesn't actually mean anything. So we can choose, I don't know, let's do 2 paragraphs and generate some lorem ipsum. Let's go ahead and I will copy this. Oh, there's an ad in the way. Let's just do 1 paragraph for now. All right. And let's put it here in this 3/4 section. So I'm just going to put this lorem ipsum text in there. Notice that now that has grown to match the size, right? To match the size of the content inside of it, okay? And if I were to get rid of the, let's get rid of that border. it'll actually look kind of decent. Like it'll look like the web page is supposed to, right? Now, if there's more content in here, like maybe there's a picture here, profile picture, and then I have some content there, and then, you know, here I have, you know, some description of the website, whatever, right? Anyway, this is the old school way of organizing content on the internet, on web pages. I am going to, well, let's finish this up real quick. Where did my end tag go for this div? Did I copy over it? That was weird. This is 3/4 div. Okay. Oh no, it's right there. That was weird. All right, it was there. All right, so I'm gonna put those, I'm gonna put the border back. 1 pixel solid black. Okay. All right, so this is the basic setup. Oh, we also probably want a footer, but for a footer we could just use the full. That would be fine. So if I wanted a footer at the bottom, I can use this, and I can say, what is the, I can just do like copyright 2025, and I can center this content here either by creating a new subclass, or I can just do it in here. I can say style equals text align center. I can also add some background colors to some of these. So I can say this one, maybe I want style equals text, or no, not text, background hyphen color, and I'm gonna make it aqua. I don't know, just for fun, and it'll only color that one, right? I can add images to these contents, or to these containers, all of that stuff. The one thing I want to show you before we move on is, if I shrink my web page, notice that everything kind of squishes up like it's, you know, it's gross. We don't want that. So what we want to do is we want to actually set a property, or set it up so that whenever my website gets shorter or skinnier than a certain value, then it reorganizes all of this so that it stacks properly. So it'll actually stack on top of each other instead of being next to each other. So it's actually pretty easy to do this. Let me just show you real quick. So in the CSS, we can set something called a media property. The media property starts with an @ sign. So this is the basically the character set. So we're going to say the media character set, and we're going to say we're going to give it some triggerable event. So for us, we're going to say max width 600 pixels. So basically, whenever it's under 600 pixels, it's going to do the following. And what it's going to do, it's going to change c.quarter, c.half, and c.75 to all have a width of 100%. So that, what that's saying is, whenever this web page or this container, the whatever the screen is, when that gets skinnier than 600 pixels, then we're going to resize these classes so that they are 100%. So they take up the entire width of the screen. So let's just keep shrinking. Oh, there we go. We have hit 600 pixels. So now everything's stacked on top of each other. You know what, this might actually be easier to show you if I set a height property. So let's set a height of 300 pixels here so we can see everything. So now we have all of our content on our web page. It looks nice. We've got our grid boxes here. Now if we shrink it and shrink it a little more, now everything's stacked on top of each other, and it's a lot easier for us to scroll through. I'm sure you've seen websites do this on your cell phone. When you go to a website, on your phone and it stacks it like this, but in the regular website, it looks more like this, like the website's supposed to, right? Okay, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to create a template. I'm just going to get rid of this background color because it's driving me crazy. All right, I want you to create a template that that uses a grid system, and you can put a combination of quarters, 3/4, halves, fulls, all in your website, and you don't have to put any content in there. You can if you'd like. Oh, one other thing, by the way, if you really, no, I'll leave that alone. But if you want, you can put some content in there. You can start building out this website with information. You can put, pictures and text and whatever you want, just to kind of play around with how this grid works. But create a grid system. You can keep the border on if you'd like, or you can take the border away. I'm going to take the border away just so it's a little bit easier. I'm going to be able to click through and look at all of the individual sections here in Dreamweaver. That's one of the things I like about it the most. So we don't actually need the border, but you can leave that on there if you'd like. But yeah, just create a template using this system. Now, and again, these percentages, you can change them all you want to. Maybe you want, a 20% or whatever. The only thing that you have to pay attention to is each container or each grid, or sorry, each row has to add up to 100%, right? Because if it doesn't, then the next thing is going to try to sneak its way into that row. So make sure you're planning your rows in a way that makes sense. Okay. Alrighty, I think that's about it. And using this grid system, you'll be able to build websites the way we did back in, 2006. If you take more advanced web development courses, I'll teach you things like Flexbox or Bootstrap or things like that that'll let you do this in a more modern way. But for now, this is pretty decent. It's a pretty good way to start. Alrighty, let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you next time.